Today, I want to talk about how Black women can build their sense of self value. So, what is self value? Before I get into what self value is, I kind of want to talk about a few related terms. The first term I want to talk about is self worth. So, what is self worth? Self worth is an attitude about your sense or one's sense of value. And so, how is that different from self value? Self value is an action or a behavior that you take because you value something. I'll give you an example. A ring gets appraised for how much it's worth. So we know it's worth whatever it's worth. The person who owns the ring takes certain precautions, certain actions to show that they value the worth of that ring. In terms of the self, when people value themselves, they take actions to ensure that the person that they value, which in this case themselves, is taken care of. That means investing in, our mental, emotional, and physical health. Doesn't mean we get everything together. It does not. I just kind of wanted to go into this a little bit because of some of the things that I've been seeing and some of the news reports about us. And it's nothing bad, it's nothing that we cannot uh, make better as a community, but it's just about us. I just wanted to give you an example of self-worth. I remember my grandmother, she had cancer a number of times, and but she always had this great attitude. My grandmother had the best attitude in the world. I've never met anybody who I've never seen her not positive. And I asked my grandmother, I said, Grandmother, how is it that you are always so positive with everything? And my grandmother sat up and told me, put her head straight up and said, because I believe I'm the most important person in the world. And she passed that down to her daughters, who passed it down to me. So that's an example of self worth. Hello, sis. My name is Colette, and I created this channel as a safe space with you in mind. I help Black women to embrace new seasons in their lives with purpose and joy by pursuing resilience, practicing self leadership, and pivoting towards entrepreneurship. And we will talk about those three pillars of this channel as the channel progresses. If anything I said resonates with you, welcome to the community. I'd love to have you. At this time, I encourage you to grab a piece of paper, grab something to write with, get comfortable. Let's talk. You'll see me looking down because I'm looking down at my notes. So we'll get started. Today's video will be pretty short, but I wanted to give some encouragement and talk about 5 ways that Black women can value themselves more. Now, before you get started, I'm not saying that Black women don't value themselves. We do value ourselves. But there are some areas that I think that we can all improve upon. So if this video is for you, please take notes and maybe implement some of the steps. I'm talking to myself too. If it doesn't apply to you and you know a Black woman or any woman that this may be helpful for, pass this information on to them, tell them about the video, and have them uh, try to do what they need to do to improve themselves for themselves. So, the number one thing that Black women can do to add more value for themselves is they can teach others how to treat them. So what do I mean by that? They can teach others how to treat them by setting up boundaries. For an example, and this is something that is a real pet peeve of mine. If you're out to dinner or out to lunch or spending time with one of your sisters or whoever, and this person is constantly taking calls on their cell phone, constantly texting, um, let them know that, hey, you set some time aside to devote to spending time with them, and you would really appreciate it if they would be present in the moment. That's a real thing, it's a real simple thing to say. You're setting your boundaries about how you want to be treated. And if the person seems like that's something that they're not able to do, then just say, hey, let's reschedule at a time that's more suitable for you. Because a person who's interested in spending time with you and being present with you, they will put their electronics to the side and they will be present in the conversation with you instead of picking up calls, texting, and saying, oh, go ahead, I hear you. No, I need you to listen to me. So that's something that's a personal pet peeve for me. And that is a boundary that I set when I interact with other people. And not saying that emergencies don't come up. Absolutely, they come up. So there are times when people have to pick up their phone. There are times when people have to respond to a text. But when it's continuous, I let people know that's something that's not acceptable for me. And we can reschedule. And it's real simple. So that's number one. Number two, accept that you are an original. Okay. This means that out of all the almost 8 billion people on this planet, there's only one you, just one. Okay. So once you accept that, then there's no need to compete with somebody else. I want to repeat that. Accepting that you are an original will help you to understand that there's no need to compete. Why? Because you're competing apples against oranges. Nobody else is like you. Nobody else is built like you. They don't think like you. Their fingerprints are different than yours. When we understand that we don't have to compete with other people, we could take that energy and start investing it and focusing on being a better version of who we are. You hear that all the time. I'm going to be a better version of who I am. And that's actually why I set up these videos so that on my journey to becoming a better version of who I am, I can also help and be an example to other people. So number two, stop competing against other people and accepting that you are an original, a beautifully made original. Okay. So number three, keep your inner critic in check. So what do I mean by that? We all have these inner critics inside of us, the self-talk, the talk that tells us don't do this because they may think that, or don't say that because they may do this. That's the inner critic. The inner critic is the one telling you about they. So one of the things that I do is, I, first of all, I've never cared about them. I've always asked people who say they, who is they? And what's their last name? And so even inside of myself, do I still have the inner critic? Absolutely. But understanding that what other people think about you is none of your business. It doesn't matter. So even with the inner critic, putting the inner critic in check, looking at and thinking about what the inner critic is telling you, it doesn't make any logical sense. You know, is it based in reality? If it's based in reality, sometimes we might need to make adjustments because sometimes that may be for safety purposes. But if it's not based in reality and it's just negative self talk, then we might need to think of some ways to manage that. And one way that we can manage uh, negative self talk, according to psychology today, is, you've guessed it, practicing gratitude. And I know you're like, Colette, you talk about gratitude every video. I probably do talk about gratitude every video, and you might hear it in every other video because it is so important. Why is gratitude important? Because negative self talk, it impacts the way we see others, it impacts the way we see the world, but most importantly, it impacts the way we see ourselves. And so that negative self talk can take a toll on our self image, our self esteem, our self confidence, and how we value ourselves. Gratitude does the same thing, but in an opposite way. Gratitude changes the way we see the world also. So it is very, very helpful to practice gratitude. Why? Because when we're grateful for the things that we have and we acknowledge that, we're able to see the world in a completely different way. Does that mean whatever situation we're in goes away? It does not. But what it means is the way we view it and the way we see it is different. And it also helps us to detach ourselves from whatever the situation is personally and gives us some hope and builds our confidence that we can and will get through it. I will link the article to the Psychology Today below in the description link so that you can read it. But I think it would be a great, great opportunity for each and every one of us to practice gratitude. So that's number 3. Number 4. Now this one is kind of a hard one, okay? And I do need to say, and I didn't say it earlier, I am not a therapist or a licensed medical provider. So the information that I am giving you or have given is my opinion, and it's for educational purposes only, okay? So number 4, Black women, we need to ditch the strong woman persona as it is defined today. So I just want to talk a little bit about the history of the strong Black woman persona or stereotype or trope or schema and explain its origins. Its origins goes back to slavery. It was a way that the enslavers were able to strip Black enslaved women of their femininity while also denying their humanness and their anything to have in common with white women. That's what the strong Black woman trope was about. It had to do with saying, hey, they don't feel pain, they don't have feelings, they're stronger than the European woman. That's where it came from. And of course, you know how we do. We are brilliant and we are masterful at taking lemons and making lemonade. So, what a lot of enslaved Black women did is we passed that down to our children. They had to do that because they had to teach their young girls, hey, this is not going to be an easy life for you. And honestly, the strong Black woman served its purpose during its time because it helped many of enslaved Black women alive. However, today, this has gone to a whole new level. And the strong Black woman uh, stereotype is causing a lot of harm to Black women. There is a 2020 Psychology of Women Quarterly research article and that found a connection between the strong Black woman stereotype and depression, anxiety, and loneliness. And what it found is that this pressure is due to the fact that many Black women who we follow this strong, I'm a strong Black woman, you know, there's pressure on us, undue pressure, unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves that we can't meet, ideas of perfectionism. And the article, which is an academic research article where they interviewed, I think it was over 200 Black women, they did a survey of over 200 Black women. They found, they called it malpractice uh, perfectionism. It means it was not good. And you hear terms like Black excellence and, you know, just different pressure stressors that are placed on Black women. This trope, this strong Black woman trope, it's not serving us anymore the way it's defined now. So I will say that in the article, the researchers, they didn't say, they didn't recommend that Black women get rid of the trope. In fact, the people who did the research based on the names. They don't appear to be Black. But I did want to point out, they did not suggest that we abandon the Black woman persona. However, as a Black woman who have held myself in the shadows of being a strong Black woman, I am suggesting that we change the definition, that we make the strong Black women trope include things like a strong Black woman, she practices self-care. She practices, healthy habits. And I'm talking to myself, whether it's eating more healthy, whether it's uh, exercising, whether it is getting enough sleep. Because what the strong Black woman is known for is taking on everyone else's needs, okay, at the cost to her own health, and doing so in silence without complaining. You hear us being told, kind of just, suck it up, suck it up. And for Black women, it's a lot. It's a lot. And you've heard some things. I'm not going to get into details, but you've heard some different news stories about different things that some of the Black women are doing. And I just think that we can redefine and make the strong Black woman to be what we want it to be. We don't have to wear the cape. We just don't have to do it. Okay. So number 5, the 5th thing we can do, which to me is very important, is to get support, build a community. Okay. It could get your support from a religious advisor, such as a pastor, a rabbi. That's important. A therapist, a trusted advisor. These things are very, very important. And since, this channel is about making it so that we are all better together. It really is. I want to be better, and I want you to be better. So if you enjoyed or you learned from this video today, please give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody. It would be very helpful to the channel if you gave it a thumbs up and if you shared it. It helps the YouTube algorithm to tell people, hey, the videos that Colette is talking about, they're helpful to people. We find it interesting, and it just pushes it out so that it can help others. If you like this content and content like it, consider subscribing to the channel. Completely love to have you. Also, if there's something that I left off, because I talked about 5 things, and there are others. If there's something that I left off, drop them in the comments. I'd love, love, love to read those kind of things. Remember, when you subscribe, which I said this earlier, click the notification bells so that you don't miss any future videos. Thank you. And until next time, we'll talk.